Adrian and Denise, welcome to the Family Business Show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I'm delighted to welcome you on the show because we have so many family businesses out there who were started by partners in crime, partners in life, husbands and wives. And I think it's a really interesting dynamic when you're running a business together. So why don't you tell us about Kesson Physiotherapy and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so my mum and us with my dad, actually, they started it in 1983 and from their home, and it was just one room in their house. It all began more as a little cottage industry, and it grew from there, and we took over in 2007. And wanted more from it, so wanted more of a lifestyle business, I suppose, and for something that we could then grow again. So yeah, that's kind of how we're now at the helm, the two of us. It was a bit accidental, really. It wasn't in the great big plan of the stars.
No, I think we've always had the idea of growing the business, and the more and more we got into it, the more and more we sort of looked at opportunities, and so we've always tried to sort of be on the front foot, I guess, in terms of looking at what we can do. And so yeah, that's been, I think, the feature of the last 10 or 12 years is just kind of really having a focus on forward planning, forward looking. Whereas I think we would both recognise that actually when we inherited the business all those years ago, it was probably much more of a reactive business. Like I said, I think we've turned it into a lot more of a proactive, forward-looking physio business.
Brilliant. So what does it look like today? What is Kesson Physiotherapy?
Well, it's we've got our main clinic, or our flagship clinic, in Faversham in Kent, and that's made up of 10 employees. So 2 of those being administrative support. We have an NHS contract as well that we run, and we use that through partnerships, and that goes across the whole of the East Kent. And we've got ambitions to grow. What I think we have created, which I think we're probably most proud about and excited about, is this opportunity for young physios to come in, to be nurtured, and actually have a progression that if they want to have something or a business aspiration of their own, that actually we've created an environment where we can do that as a joint venture. And I think that's what's really driving us at that moment, isn't it? Is seeing shifting culture in actually healthcare. It's not normal. Once you get into private practice, people tend to be a bit longer in the tooth. They sort of have to have been there for a certain amount of time, and people set up quite gingerly, I suppose. Whereas now we buck that trend and bring them in young and often newly graduated, have a whole developmental role and mentoring program with a view that, like I said, they can do this for themselves with our support.
Amazing. And that must be so satisfying for you guys. You know, you've seen your parents build this business, and now your business, and you're managing to do something that means something to you.
Yeah, it does. I think.
I think, like I said, when we kind of took it on and really got to get our sort of teeth into the business and understand what it was all about and look at the opportunity, and realizing that to be sustainable there, we have to bring people with us along the journey. It was never just going to be like a one-man band or anything like that. So thinking about where those people that we could bring into the business, where they would come from. And it seemed to us, in terms of the culture that we were trying to create, which we think is a bit different, a bit of a fresher look in the healthcare business, that we would want people who are like-minded, and so we, like Denise has already alluded to, we seek to nurture our team and bring them along, get them involved, and see the future that it can create for them. I mean, healthcare, to a large extent, is a very sort of vocational profession. People go into it because they love to help people, and and care for people, and so they're once they've chosen that path, it's likely that whatever their career develops, it's going to be along those sort of lines, and so I think we recognise that, yeah, the different stages of that, and helping people see the possibilities, really.
Brilliant. So tell me about your dynamic as partners. So how on earth did you come to that conclusion, right, we want to run a business together?
Very good.
We didn't come to that conclusion.
We didn't come to that conclusion. There was a process quite early on when I made the statement that I don't think we should work together. I just didn't. I was quite happy with our.
The first time you made that statement.
Yeah, that we should. I think we should sort of kept our sort of certainly our working and professional lives quite separate, because actually my background is not healthcare. Sort of more business and business consulting in the corporate world. But then I guess through the opportunities that presented themselves at the time, it seemed a sort of a natural fit in terms of where we were looking for the Kesson, the physio business, and how we could deliver, and sort of looking at future models. It became a good, it became more of a better fit. Initially at part-time, it wasn't full-time. We've kind of grown, and I think actually if I'd come into the business right at the start when it was really just a few of us, that would have been more difficult. But I think now we've got a few more strings to our bow, and we can we can sort of focus on different areas. And I think one of the things this has given us is we recognise what our particular strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and where to sort of how to let the right people within the business, whether that's Denise and I or others around, they get focused on what they're good at.
So your initial reservations about working together, how have they panned out, and is it what you thought it would be?
I think it's so quite early on, someone summed it up really nicely. Well, someone at work that obviously sees both of us, and they said, "Oh, you get the best of both worlds with you two," because I said Denise brings the hard skills and Adrian brings the soft skills. And I thought, oh God, I bowl in, and then Aid's the whole time trying to make everyone okay again. And but I think we've really evolved as, not only has the business evolved, but actually as people, and how understanding where we do work well and what elements actually Adrian should do, which bits that I should do, and how we regroup, and at what point to get the other person's opinion on it. I think we've. Yeah. I'd like to say he hasn't said he doesn't want to work with me for a while now. I'm taking that as a good sign.
That's success. That's success.
Yeah. No, I think so. Oh, yeah, I don't think actually it's an easy journey, and I think you'll see it with partners, with siblings, in between generations. There's inevitably an element of your home life that crosses over into the work life, and vice versa. And we see that, and even the people we work with, they see that, and they recognise that. And I think it has been a sort of a journey as we worked closer and closer together to find out what works and what doesn't work, and change. It's definitely not always been sort of smooth sailing and work perfectly, but then you have to move on past that, through that, learn from your mistakes, and do it differently next time.
And is there a final decision maker?
Ooh. Go on then. You say you.
Yeah.
Good to know your place, Adrian.
But it's not even I don't even know if it is. I love making decisions. Yeah, but I don't. Adrian considers, but yeah, he makes it hard.
I don't make it easy.
No, like I'm trying to plow on, and he's around my ankles, sometimes. But yeah, but we eventually, with time.
I'm quite good I like challenging.
Oh yes.
And that's kind of why I think Denise asked me to get more and more involved back in those early days. Because I think I have quite a sort of questioning mind, and because I'm not a healthcare professional, I also get to look at things from a slightly different perspective. Whereas I think, I'm sort of telling tales out of school. I think when you're on the physiotherapy side and inside looking out, you do get a different perspective. And so there's that aspect as well.
Oh, that was a really key aspect actually, because I didn't want to think like a physio. When I looked at my business, I didn't want to be constrained to how that is, and that you've been absolutely key into ensuring that that's not the case.
Sounds like that dynamic works perfectly, actually. You know, that you've got someone without a different experience, different outside experience, and you've got someone who's been on the tools, as it were, you know, and building that business together. So you don't strike me as the type of people who are happy to just keep things ticking along, doing what you've always done. So, you know, what were your ambitions for this business when you took over the reins, and do you feel like you're getting there?
So we really laid it out 2 years ago. We made a decision that we wanted to create a model or a clinic that worked, that was repeatable, that we could do elsewhere. Because like I said, we were really enjoying bringing on fresh talent, nurturing it, and, you know, and honing that ambition and actually showing them that's something that they can then do, and, you know, we could potentially facilitate with that. So that's where all the drive has been until COVID, where so I think we were very much thinking, you know, more bricks and mortar business. So we're now decided that, not that that's irrelevant, that still is part of it, but there needs to be a bit of a pivot where we look at our digital offering and how we can and, you know, what am I trying to say? Like, not enhance, bring on. I'm going to say bring on. That's not really what I mean. But all this clever technology that there is now, and actually apply it to, again, healthcare, which is so always late to the tech party anyway. And that is come much more into the forefront. I think it was always there that we were aware we needed to embrace technology more, and this has really sped that decision making up.
Yeah, and like I said, we've really sort of come on in the last couple of years, particularly, really sort of hit the fast forward button for us, which is great. But I think over the previous 10 years, we've been trying to do that, and again, having success in some areas and not so successful in others. So I think, yeah, we learned a lot in that first decade, and I think that's now, again, similar to sort of how our working relationship worked in terms of then how the business relationship worked as well. That, yeah, we were good at some things, not so good at others, learned our lessons, tried new things, and I think it was good that we felt secure about the business to be able to do that. We get people involved who like what they do, like to talk about it. We have a good relationship with our patients, our customers, and that works as well. So we've always been quite good at sort of tapping into good people, good groups of people.
Brilliant. Okay, so Denise, I think the word you're reaching there for was embracing tech. Yeah, because you're probably like 99.9% of all other small business owners out there who, when the coronavirus hit, suddenly thought our web presence, our digital presence isn't up to scratch. Now, for someone in, you know, such a hands-on industry, I mean, literally skin to skin. So tell me about the coronavirus, the last 6 months for you, what that meant practically, and how it has changed or pivoted your business.
So it had a significant impact. It could have been a lot worse, I think, is the summary, because we were able, whether it's fortuitous or just a lot of good luck, we had changed all of our systems internally and updated all of that, so we could migrate into these virtual appointment offerings overnight, which was phenomenal. Thank goodness for that. And thank goodness again that we had a support of an NHS contract, so we were still getting demand coming through, because the self-funding market, that really, I think the term would be fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
That just went overnight. What was quite interesting though, we actually grabbed the attention because we were one of the few providers, not just locally, that could continue a service, albeit virtually. We started getting patients coming in from out of area because if they weren't looking for their nearest, which is normally the way that they would approach it. That was quite interesting, and the types of conditions that you can manage quite well virtually is slightly different to what we would normally see in clinic. So again, that was showed us that there's opportunity out there.
When you say virtually, how do you practice physiotherapy virtually?
So
it's a bit like this.
It's a bit like this, yeah. So a huge amount of what we do, although I think everyone always focus on the actual touching element and the human contact element, a huge part of what we do, I would say 90%, is what comes out our mouth. So the education and that empowerment and the reassurance that comes with it. So when people approach us, when they first make contact and want to make an appointment, their main reason is they're in pain, and they're often quite fearful or concerned about that level of pain. Either it feels quite significant, so they worry that something significant is wrong, or it's really reduced their quality of life. So often just being able to explain to someone why they're experiencing what they're experiencing and what they can do about that to help themselves can immediately, it's not uncommon for people to sometimes just think, oh God, I feel better just being here, and having that rapport. So that still translates really, really nicely during these virtual appointments. So that was really what drove most of them, were people that needed reassurance to know that there wasn't anything significantly wrong, that they didn't need to seek investigations or scans or be sort of banging on the GP door, and then what they could do to help themselves in the short term.
That's amazing. So that's something that probably most people would never have even considered. Like you say, people assume you go for physiotherapy because you need the touching and the that sort of work, as opposed to actually probably a bit more therapy, which is like, let's explore why this is happening, how you're feeling about it. Is that causing more pain, that anxiety, and I love the fact that that's allowed you to reach a wider audience.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So that there is an opportunity that has arisen out of this terrible pandemic. So how have you found, you and your team, mentally being able to adjust to working like that?
Very, very well, as it turned out, but it's not easy when you are used to dealing with your customers on a face-to-face basis, to suddenly go to a situation where they're miles away and your only connection is on a screen. That's quite difficult. We were quite lucky, I think, that we moved to virtual. We could almost see the writing on the wall, if you like, and moved to the virtual appointments before lockdown, because there was obviously in healthcare settings there was obviously a reticence about going to those environments. So we did. So when we first did it, we were still in the clinic, we were still running the virtual appointments from the clinic, and so we could support one another in terms of, well, what's it like, how are you finding it, what works, doesn't work. So when we went into lockdown and our physios were actually giving treatments from their home to people in their homes, it meant that they were sort of felt better armed and capable and aware of a way of doing it. We actually started, so we went into lockdown in March. We actually started seeing patients in May, and urgent cases initially, and a very, very small number. So our reopening of the physical clinic started in May and gradually, very slowly increased over the summer months. We're lucky in terms of, as Denise has alluded to, in our sort of NHS contracts, we were able to get a lot of feedback and input on the appropriate level of care for our patients, so we're able to implement that above and beyond what the sort of the guidance was, government guidance was saying. So that was good and reassuring, because virtual offering is great, and in a sort of a crisis situation like this, it was good to be able to do that. But you've got to bear in mind that physios go into physiotherapy because of that. They want to be hands-on with their patients and be there with them and see the actual what the patient is trying to achieve, what they can do to influence that. And to take that away and make it virtual, it's not quite the same. It can form part of it, and it's good to know that your words and your encouragement is having a positive benefit for your patient. But I think we have definitely welcomed the fact that we've been able to go back to a more traditional face-to-face environment. The virtual appointments are still continuing. People are still forming a part of what we do, but not as much as it was 6 months ago.
It must reassure you, though, that should anything like this happen again, or we go back into quite a severe lockdown, that your business could survive through it, unlike many other physiotherapy and other industries, where, in particularly bricks and mortar ones like yours, where they've not even considered that or thought about it. Like you say, being ahead of that curve has put you in a great position.
Yeah, no, we're very lucky with some of the decisions we made months, if not years ago. You'd never expect in any business planning to think, well, what happens when there are no patients walking through your front door? What do we do about that? No, I don't think we would ever, because then we'd think, well, we're not a physio business. Or why would we be a business without patients? And so yeah, we were well prepared. Was sort of vital in that case.
And I think the team really fed into it. Sorry, that their trust on our processes was phenomenal. Like that's what blew me away.
We had this one, so sorry to interrupt. We had this one guy. He joined us in January from South Africa. His first physio job out of university, and so he came in, and so he's in a new country, new culture. A new way of doing business. So he'd done some work experience in hospitals in South Africa, but being in a private practice and how we deal with that. So he had to adapt and adopt all of that, and a new way of patients dealing with him. And then within 3 months, we put him back in his living room at home with a laptop and said, right, you've got to treat patients every day on that screen there. And that for a 20-something-year-old, is he 21? 20-year-old boy in a foreign country, that just is a complete, that will mess with your head. And he did it. One of the reasons we took him on, because we knew we could see the potential in it, but he did it. He took that on and he ran with it, and it worked, and he's going great guns.
Amazing. So where are you now? So we're in mid-October. Is everything fully back up and running?
So we are, yeah, so everybody's back. Everything we've got the full potential. The only thing we are not able to deliver on, we have the wellness classes or the exercise classes that come in, and we've had to really reduce the number of people that attend those so that we can make sure everyone can socially distance and not need to wear a mask if they don't want to in that environment, and keep that safe and COVID secure. So I think that's the only element that we have had to still restrict. Everything else we're able to operate safely with the PPE. And yeah, it's recovering. We are on track where we laid out in June what we thought we would be doing financially. I think we're just a bit ahead of ourselves, aren't we? So we're taking that as a win.
Absolutely, and take every win at the moment, Okay, so we've made it through COVID. Hopefully it's going to disappear off the face of the earth at some point soon. What are your aspirations now? What do you want to build together? Where do you want to be 5, 10, 20 years from now?
So we've been talking about this morning, because I think, as I was talking about earlier, I want to pivot our plan slightly because of the COVID, and really see if we can create as an amazing digital experience as you can get in the clinic. Once you step through the threshold for us, one thing I think we deliver amazingly well is a really enjoyable and personable customer experience. So we would like to try and create that digitally, and then use that to help guide where to set up our next bricks and mortar centres. So we want to make these destination centres for people that want that more, they need that more support, and they want to choose to use that they can come into that. Whereas I think before COVID, the majority of our new customers, they come from personal recommendation. So we were thinking, well, it can't be too far from where we already are, because that, you know, no one will know who we are and why they should come. So I think that's made us feel a bit bigger and bolder. Again, our idea is if we can really nail this digital experience, we can actually create something even bigger and better than we had initially envisaged. So it's quite exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's not too far removed from our plans pre-COVID, as in our plans that we've been developing. Like I said, especially and focusing on in the last couple of years, it will always be about offering what we do to more people. And I think 12 months ago, there was probably a geographical limitation on that. Now there's much less of a limitation of that, as you've already alluded to, is that you can, suddenly now, if you embrace the digital marketplace, it's global. And I think we do, what we're going to use is to be much more savvy about how we approach our virtual marketplace. And kind of use that to steer more where we think the demand is going to come from, and recognise that it will evolve. Because I think, what this period in time is challenging everybody. It's challenging how we deliver services, but it's equally challenging how people access services and what they expect from services. That's going to change. We might have our assumptions now about what we think patients out there want, but that's going to change because of their expectations of what can be achieved. And there are certain people that are going to want the hands-on, hand-holding customer experience. There are others that just, dare I say, may want the more remote, quick fix, something that they're happy to do to manage on their own.
So you're actually talking about now scalability, really, of your business, which for a traditional bricks and mortar hands-on business, you know, it's always difficult, isn't it? You know, just like most hairdressers only have one hairdressing salon, you never really see a chain of 10, you know. And so scalability, if you feel like this coronavirus pandemic has helped you to get there, that's incredible, isn't it? And also you must have learned so much now about the digital world and data and all of that stuff. So talk to me a bit about that.
I think that scalability is exactly our drive, you know, trying to solve. And I think hairdressers is a really good comparison, and I always use that when I think about our industry, because again, it's so personal, isn't it? If your hairdresser moves somewhere else, people tend to go with the hairdresser. And our biggest issue has always been that really all we're selling is 30 minutes of time. And so how do you make that scalable? You know, you've always got to create more time, whether that's bringing on more employees or creating more rooms for people to work out of. So I'm really excited about how digital and artificial intelligence and this customer-centric approach and personalization ability that technology is giving us now, how we can apply that to our business to mean that actually people are getting a phenomenal experience, which is not linked to having to provide a roof over a person in a room 30 minutes at a time.
Absolutely. So if there are other family businesses out there like you, where would you suggest how have you learned all of this? Have there been any resources, any people you've turned to? Where would you suggest another sort of family business owner go if they think, I've learned a lot, I'm ready to scale up now?
Well, like I said, I think part of it's having the mindset and having the proactive mindset, looking forward and realizing that you can have a lot more kind of influence over your future than you perhaps give yourself credit for. Because I think that's always been part of our sort of evolution in terms of when we've been looking after the business, is to have that forward thing and be looking ahead and have targets. And as I said before, we weren't always great at that. But then it made us more open to the ideas. And there is one book which Denise, I think, has spoken to you about already, called Scaling Up, by Gazelle Consulting, Vern Harnish. And we read that book, and Denise devoured it. And it's really a consolidation of a lot of sort of growth strategies and sort of change management and a lot of thinking that's been brought from all over, and picking the best bits really, and working out what makes companies tick, what makes individuals within businesses tick, and what you should be really focusing on, and really sort of focusing on the things that you could and should do to make your business grow, and become great. And some of those things we were really happy to adopt, and that helped us focus. In particular, it got our strategy sorted, and in a very simple and easy to understand, not just for us who are leading the business, but for our team as well, because that's another thing, is how you communicate your vision and your values with your team and get them to embrace that then sort of stands you in good stead as you're trying to move forward. Because when we talk about where we want this business to go, where our team members have bought into that vision and our values, they get it, and they then can sort of help push themselves forward. And we've had experience where people haven't got that, and they don't last very long, and they go up and they pursue their own route, and their own career, and that's fine for them. Because what we found is that what we're doing is we're attracting more people that get us and get what we're trying to do here, and sort of share our offering and what we do to a sort of a wider and broader audience.
Brilliant. Okay, so you've got a lot of experience between the two of you, and also come together now the last sort of 12 years in building this business. Can you think of one thing each that you would look back and think, that was a great lesson for me, and it's something I would, pass on to someone else building a business?
I think the biggest pivot, or the pivotal change for us, for creating goals that weren't being achieved by the team to now creating goals that they are achieved, is that I think before it felt like we were growing for growing's sake, as in, of course you want to be bigger, so you just keep doing it, but it's not really giving anyone any excitement. They're not seeing the benefit to them of us growing. It just all feels very much as, we're saying from the top, this is what you've got to do, and making their job harder for no real understanding why. So I think the most powerful thing we did was bringing everyone in who works there, and if you haven't got anyone that works with you yet, just consolidating it for yourselves, but then making sure you bring people in that buy into it, is the values, the purpose, and the mission, like why you get out of bed in the morning. And what was probably really obvious to everyone else, but it was quite nice that we all agreed, is we got out because we want to care for people. And it's a really nice job where literally every half hour someone tells you, gosh, you've made a real difference to me, thank you. I can't think of many other professions where that is. So the minute we were like, we just want to care for as many people as we can, that's something that people can really get behind, because if you don't want to, you're really in the wrong business. And if you do, and you've got other ideas of how we can do that, great, tell us about them. And then that was a bit of a game changer, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I love that way of thinking, that rather than just, like you say, making money for money's sake, or growing turnover for turnover's sake, actually if you chisel down into, we just want to care for as many people as we can, and in turn they turn into pounds and profit and a bigger business, then that's a completely different way of looking at it, particularly for maybe one of your employees who not driven by money, or not driven by profit, or not driven by turnover, they're driven by care. That's a really easy way for them to understand it.
And a nice, it's a nice way at the end of the day, rather than what we used to be like, well, how many appointments did we do? And now we're like, how many people did we care for? Oh my gosh, you changed 65 people's lives today. How many people can go home and say that? I think.
Yeah.
Well, Adrian, you've had a few minutes now. What's your one? I think
it's a sort of it's a gradual thing. I'm not saying it's just one thing, but I think it's something that's been sort of hammered home. And again, it's funny what you learn in like over the lockdown about what really works is the way we communicate. And I think again, it's coming out of that more reactive, reserved mindset, inward-looking mindset, to a more looking externally, being open, being proactive. Is talking to, but that's talking to ourselves as colleagues, but that's talking to patients as well, and managing expectations. I guess that's part of it as well. Is that whether it's us talking about the business to our colleagues and our team and saying that this is all where we're trying to go, and this is what we're trying to achieve. Are you up for that? What's it going to take for you to get there? What do we need to do to help you get there and come along this ride with us and do that? So having that dialogue and making that a really positive experience. And similarly with our patients, our customers, is sort of, it's very much part of what we do. It's, you're here because you're in pain, but we're going to help get through that pain, and then that's going to enable you to do something with that, and do something with yourself and your body and your movement. Where are you going to go with that? And try and talking to them about what they're going to achieve. You're suddenly talking about almost their life journey with them, and that is very empowering for them. It's very empowering for us because it helps in the sort of the level and type of care and input that we give. And so it's that whole communication, and that inevitably builds up a bit of a bond between us and our community, our patient base, our patient network. And so it's kind of feeding off that positive energy. And if we're encouraging people, if we're encouraged to talk to people, then we're encouraging people to talk to us and talk about us, and that helps us with the business as well. So it's all very cyclical. And I guess if we're kind of pushing that proactive positivity out, it works. People talk about us, people come back to us, and the business grows and grows and grows on from there.
Amazing. So two fantastic lessons there, really. Denise, yours is about your why, and does everyone from the top to the bottom know that why you're cutting so much hair, why you're building so many houses, why you're whatever it might be. Actually, it's about, we want to care for as many people as we can. We want to make women feel great through how they look. We want to build homes for families. Actually, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, need to know your why, but everyone needs to know that why, don't they? So we'll be on board. And then, Adrian, I mean, communication, if we've learned nothing else over the last 6 months, it's the single most important, tool we have in our belt as leaders, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Completely. Okay, so before we finish, one last shameless plug for Kesson Physiotherapy. So what can we do as a family business audience? And I don't think you'll meet any family business leader who doesn't want to help another business owner. What can we do to help you on your journey and get to where you need to be?
Well, we talk about us.
Talk about us, yes.
But I think what we would like, well, one thing that works really well locally that I think, again, we would like to be able to reach out further is supporting larger businesses with their employee workforce, how to do the wellness element of it. So again, we've traditionally worked with people when their employees are in pain and they come in, but now we're doing a lot more that, we're seeing people wanting to nurture their employees, and we're supporting them with their wellness classes and that fitness element of there. So I think that's something probably, we were quite keen to explore further on that one.
And I guess, and we're looking for people as well, looking to increase our network of people that are looking to deliver healthcare sort of differently in the digital age, and how that can be done, and the ideas. Because I think what we realise is we have to be much more creative. And we think we're reasonably creative, but we're sure there are many more sort of people with ideas out there who we'd love to hear from. And it's those people that are thinking about, well, how do you package something up? What aspects of a particular type of healthcare should you focus on? And it's those people that have got those ideas and we just want to talk. We just like to bounce off people like that, really.
Absolutely. And you don't know what you don't know.
No.
Yeah.
So many people who've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and can save you months and years of trying to figure it out for yourself. And we live in that type of world now, don't we? I mean, you hear this phrase all the time, we're all in this together. But actually, if we can make that work in real life, then that, one person's success is everyone's success, really. So, well, we will absolutely, talk about you till the cows come home. Denise, I think you're right. All these businesses that are now welcoming their teams back slowly but surely into the workplace, where there might have been quite a lot of, mental health challenges, people working at home on their own, families, and actually going back to work is a place where they can start looking after themselves. So we will, of course, spread the word for you about that.
Great, thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Well, thank you both so much for being on the Family Business Show. So inspiring and motivating and real get up and go. And I think you've done an incredible job of A, surviving the early days of this pandemic, but B, embracing that new way of working. I think that's so exciting, and it's the reason you will be here in years and years to come. So congratulations and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.